Hello, everyone. My name is Robert, and I started this channel, I'm 70, Now What, because I wanted to have conversations about being 70. I've said it before and I'll say it again. 70 is a big number. A lot of things have happened to me, retirement, looking around and knowing that I'm alone, I live alone, and also realizing and trying to get some perspective on how to prioritize things. I think some of those things have happened naturally. Like, I don't really care so much about what people think about me anymore. Wow, I have some really doubtful feelings about politics and religion and questioning those things. Um, and also, I'm looking around and seeing that a lot of my friends have a lot of different types of diseases, and a number of them, well, a big number of them have passed away. They've moved on. Trying to embrace that and thinking about a sense of community and wondering if living in an isolated place in Michigan is the best that I can do for myself at this time in my life. Concerns of financial matters, like, for instance, my house is paid for. Do I want to move and take on a mortgage or sell my house and not have that? Just different things. And um, also a sense of well-being, both physically and mentally, trying to determine what's in my best interest and how to move forward with that. Um, so yeah, I think it's really important that I have conversations with other men in their 70s, other people in their 70s, and begin to have connection with them in a different way than I have in the past, because those of us that are in our 70s are most likely looking through a different lens than what we've looked through before, and how life looks very different today. So, yeah, I'm going to initiate these conversations with other men in their 70s. There's maybe some women, and share it with whoever wants to listen. But what I can say is this: connection matters. Health takes on a huge priority. Life is a journey. Hard to ignore the changes our bodies are going through. And of course, cognitive decline is real. Our brains are aging. Okay, so you asked how I am. I am on a mission to reach out to other 70-year-olds, because the day I turned 70, it really hit me how big of a number that was, right? So I started thinking about that, and I started thinking, well, just look to your peers, talk to them, see what's going on with them, how they manage this, and if they have any, words of wisdom that will help me move forward and embrace being 70. So the thing that I like about you, Jack, is that I wanted to have a conversation with you because you have firsthand knowledge, more so than a nurse, with this specific population, the 70-year-olds, the 80-year-olds, and the 90-year-olds. And I, first of all, would like for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm getting ahead of myself. And you're 70 what?
73.
Oh, yeah.
Just turned 73.
Yeah, that's great. And can you give us some background here?
Sure, I'm Jack Newby. I used to practice law, and then I found the good part of myself and went into nonprofit management. Um, Managed the Gay and Lesbian Center and AIDS Project Long Beach during the worst part of that epidemic, and then moved to Palm Springs. Got started working in senior centers and spent the next 20 some years, except for a 4 year diversion to San Francisco, working in senior services. And the last seven before I retired, was as executive director of the Joslin Center in Palm Desert.
Yeah. So before I ask you about that and what you saw in that experience with your professional work, tell me, what about you? Since you've turned 70, right off the bat, what was the most, what is and was maybe the most challenging thing about that for you?
I think Zoom. Um,
Yeah.
and the reason I say that is because, with my work, consulting work I do Zoom a lot. And when I was doing it, I noticed this, you know, terrible turkey waddle. And I didn't really like the way I looked on video. I didn't so much notice it in the mirror, um, but this is Zoom, I guess, is a little unforgiving. And I just became not obsessed with it, but I thought I've got to do something about this. So I got a facelift and neck lift.
That's great, Jack. You look great, man. I have to say, I've known you for a couple decades now, I think.
Yeah.
And talking about that mirror, which is one of the things that I had issues with, and Zoom is a mirror. But I would walk by the mirror, and every once in a while, I would catch this glimpse of myself and the wrinkled skin. I've got a collar on right now, but I mean, and I would be startled by it. I would look and go, who the hell is that? Ooh, don't wear that shirt again. Those kind of things, right? And even when I consulted AI about having this "I'm 70 now, what," podcast, it said to make sure I wear my glasses to look the part. All these things that some AI is telling me, and I thought that no, when I feel like wearing my glasses, I will. So it's challenging, technologically challenging, and also because of when we're on Zoom, we're face to face with ourselves and with others. And I get that. I understand that. So what about health issues, Jack? So many of us are facing health issues now that maybe we hadn't contemplated, in the past. I know as an ICU nurse, I had a major heart attack. I had 7 stents put in. I mean, all that was unexpected, right? And I survived it. And what are you seeing and what are you feeling about your health? I mean, right now to look at you, I would just think, wow, Jack's got it together, which hope I'm sure you do. But I mean, you look really healthy and you look great, Jack.
Well, thank you. Before I retired, so it's been about 2.5 years thereabouts. Um, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Yep.
And everyone kind of threw their hands up in the air. They didn't know what to do because I had had a previous bout with cancer 10 years prior. And what they don't tell you about radiation therapy is that it tears you up. Um, they try to say, oh, this little beam goes in there and we have it focused and blah, 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 but it goes through tissue and it creates scar tissue and constrictions and all sorts of things. Um, so I had to go on 15 months of hormone androgen deprivation therapy, which is a nice way of saying, castration. Because prostate cancer or kind of thrives when there is, now I'm losing the thought, but it thrives um, with testosterone. Testosterone is kind of a fertilizer for it. So as they were trying to figure out a treatment for me, I went to UC San Diego. They were going to do cryotherapy. And then I said, well, there's this test. I want to see how far this has gone or if it's gone anywhere. So they gave me that test, and what they found out was um, that although it had not metastasized, it had gone outside what they refer to as the capsule of the prostate.
Hmm.
So I consulted with the cryotherapy guy, and he says, I can't do it. He says, I can't control it when it's outside of the prostate. So I found a doctor at UCLA who does what's called high dose rate brachytherapy, which is um, brachytherapy. A lot of people with prostate cancer think of the seeds that they do in the prostate, but this was high dose rate radiation. Um, it's kind of cringe-worthy what they do, but they stick, there are well, actually 4 sessions of it, but 2 consecutive weekends. And they stick about 17 hollow needles through your perineum into the prostate, and then do high dose rate radiation. Um, and then the worst part of it is they don't take those needles out. You have to sleep with it. And then the next morning they do it again. And then the following weekend or week, it's the same treatment. Fortunately, it was very successful. The side effects, though, of the hormone therapy, my testosterone level is like 24. Um, and so I found, I'm not like, less energy. I try to go to the gym. I can't lift the weights that I could before this. Uh, so, that's a challenge for me, but I keep on keeping on, I guess. I pretty much do about 3 days a week at the gym. Try to work through it. Uh, and there's of course other aches and pains that go on. And the radiation therapy has its side effects. Um, but I'm here.
Yeah, and like I said, you look great. On a larger scale, that it all sounds very painful, Jed, and it was making me cringe when you were describing that. But on a larger scale, so I'm a veteran, and I retired from nursing. And one of the things that I got concerned about while I was receiving my treatment is that I have a knowledge base, right? I have a medical knowledge base, and I can interact with the nurses and the doctors, and I can ask them the right questions or direct them if I feel like they're getting a little bit away from my treatment plan, right? And I saw all these other vets who are definitely, 70, 80, 90-year-olds vets who don't have anybody to advocate for them, who don't know what questions to ask. And they're put into that equation that whatever the doctor says is what they're going to do. Whatever the nurse says, and whatever appointment was made for them, even though it might be the wrong appointment with the wrong doctor, there's nobody there to advocate for them. And it really concerned me. So what I'm curious about in your seeking of medical attention, did you notice that in any of the medical facilities that you were attending, or were they a little bit more conscientious of that?
Um, I think as you know, Robert, and your audience will soon know, I've been living with HIV since you could know you're living with HIV. And I've learned how to be a self-advocate.
Hmm.
So, when I was diagnosed with HIV, I got online, tried to learn everything I could. And the same thing with other, things that have come along. And with prostate cancer, I got online and I found out everything I could. I would say go to trusted websites like WebMD or, something with a well-known medical, uh, university-based medical, but really research it
Hmm.
and know it'll help you learn the right questions to ask. Because I was that person you described with the first round of cancer. Didn't ask all the questions, was terrified, and I wish I would have asked some questions, and I think I could have had a better outcome with it. The outcome was fine, but actually, some of the doctors have suggested that it was about 10 years prior to the prostate cancer, and the radiation therapy I received could well have caused the prostate cancer.
Yeah.
Um, but, you know, so what? In life, understanding is the movie prize.
Yeah. And, I think an important point of this conference with you is that I just want to remind people, just like you had to learn for yourself, that they're an important part of their own healthcare team, that it's really important that they try to figure out a list of questions before they go to their appointment. And I always tell people, write down the name of the doctor, write down the name of the nurses who provided you with care, and make sure that you understand everything. And if you have any questions, write them down and make sure that you get answers to them. Because again, they don't know, they don't have anyone advocating for them. And a lot of them don't even know that there are patient advocates in the VA. And the patient advocates, I've had experiences with them, some good, some bad, but it's really important. So let's even go a little bit bigger than this. In your professional career, when you were running, what's the name? The Jocelyn Center. Um, did you see a theme, a pattern of things that were going on with the clients that came in there, their healthcare needs, their mental health needs? Uh, was there something that you saw that you could identify that maybe could help somebody when they're faced with going to the Jocelyn Center or any center for that matter?
But the first thing I'd say is go. Um, the Surgeon General a year and a half ago or so, came out with the impacts of loneliness and isolation on our health.
Yeah.
And some people didn't believe that I had done the research even before they came out with it, but that loneliness and isolation can have the same adverse health impacts as smoking about a pack of cigarettes a day. And the reason for that is if you're sedentary, your muscles atrophy, um, your brain doesn't work as well, your circulation isn't as good. So stay active and engaged. And also, there's research that shows that the more engaged you are, the less prone people are to developing Alzheimer's. So keeping, even if it's chair yoga, something like that, staying, walking every day, being around people, socialization is very important. And so that's, kind of the miracle of senior centers, if you will, is that it provides an opportunity for older adults to um, find new outlets. And for some of us, it's hard because we're shy or, we think they're cliques or something like that. But, I've seen people just develop relationships sitting in the lobby, talking with a group of people after their exercise class every morning. So, that I think more than anything else is the best observation I've had and what I've seen and read and research is keep active, keep engaged, don't sit home and watch Judge Judy all day, because it'll drive you crazy. But you know, take that 15-minute walk every day, every morning. We can't do that here, so I have to go to the gym and walk, but um,
Too high.
yeah, find ways to get out and force yourself to get out. Um, I think making new friends. You don't have to, you can make new friends when you're 70 or 80. Um, and find things you like to do. I just, one of the things I thought, well, I'm retired. Everyone takes art classes, so I'm going to start painting.
Oh, I
Um,
love that. I love that.
so I, took classes at the Gay and Lesbian Center. I've painted some things. I've now exhibited in a uh, artist center in Palm Desert. It's fun. It's the creative side of me that I didn't repress, but I just it wasn't something that I let out when I was younger.
Yeah. So that's a really important message, loneliness and isolation, which brings me to something that I struggle with, is because I'm lonely, I'm isolated in Michigan, and I don't have a sense of community. The community that I have found on Zoom, in my 12-step programs. I have a group of people that I interact with on a daily basis. So so one of the things I know, and I'm not making this about Palm Springs, is that just because Palm Springs has people like you who have orchestrated some of the administrative things of these places for senior citizens, there's a community there that offers so much more than what I could get here. And as far as a gay and lesbian community, I I don't have that here. I have a few little scattered friends here and there, unless I want to drive 90 miles to Detroit, or if I go to Ann Arbor, which is a college town, I feel like grandpa. I just feel like grandpa. I'm so used to Palm Springs and, the retirement community, and that it makes me question if this is detrimental to my mental health, not having the community that I have always felt like a part of. So I think it's a really important piece, Jack. And so it sounds like in this interview, this is really about health and wellness, keeping our minds fit, keeping our bodies fit, which, by the way, I struggle to go to the gym 3 days a week. I'm at 180 pounds. I'm pretty thin now, and I go to the gym and I have aches and pains that I didn't know were possible. And I've learned not to use different machines and then I got a rotator cuff, injury. It just goes on and on. So you kind of have to be careful and not overdo it. And the doc told me, Robert, no free weights, only machines with light weights. So that's what I've been doing. I've had really good success with some of the doctors that I have, and I'm really, I've really taken to heart since that heart attack. I changed my diet. I changed my exercise. I try to walk between 8 and 10,000 steps a day, except for Sunday. And I try to be very spiritually fit and mindful of things. And I think the last part of it is I need to wrap up with my life with, I have a will. I've done all the things that I need to do. And my pets, I have taken care of that if something happens to me. And do you still have pets, Jack?
Yes,
Dogs?
a corgi.
Oh, they're wonderful. They're wonderful. And I think that adds to our mental
This
health.
one's this one's a biatch.
Well, lucky you. Lucky you. Lucky you. So with everything that we talked about, I try to keep these down to, like, I don't know, 25 minutes at the most. I just want to ask you, is there anything that comes to mind that you would like to share with an audience about being 70? And before you say something, let me just say this. Right now, I'm just getting 5 interviews together, and then I'm going to start pushing them out to different groups for availability. So, because I think there's been some really important things that people, that we have discovered together and talked about, that somebody who's sitting alone and in that loneliness and isolated state might see, God, look at how healthy this guy seems and how mentally well he seems, and he's willing to get out there and go to the gym 3 times a week. He survived cancer, all those things. Um, but is there something that you can think of that you would like to share with our community?
Well, I mean, what I'll share is something I learned when I was in Cub Scouts.
Okay.
Um, and moms would drive us back and forth to our Cub Scout meetings. And it was raining this particular time, and my mom was driving us home. And that was when, rain in Southern California and cars, if it rained, your car died. And so certainly, we were a couple blocks from the house and the pouring down rain, the car died. We sat there for a little bit and my mom said, well, it doesn't look like it's going to let up. So we have a choice. We can sit here and wait or, um, you know, walk home. And that can be a terrible thing or it can be a wonderful thing. It can be an adventure. We can walk home in the rain, splash the puddles, and when we get home, make hot chocolate. And what struck me about that, and I carried this throughout my life, is the same set of circumstances. We can choose to make it a disaster or an adventure. And that we have that choice every day. And there's a little voice in the back of our head that's constantly and it's 99.9% negative, always chiming in with something. And I've learned just to say, thank you for sharing, and to try and choose uh, the path that's best for me, out of certain circumstances. So, that's, choose the adventure. And what that gives us so much power in our life is that we're not at the effect of whatever's going on around us. It gives us the power to choose the direction for ourselves. So that's my little pearl of wisdom.
I love that, Jack. Thank you so much for that. And I just want to say one last thing, and it helps me a lot and I internalize it, is it's my turn to be 70. It's my turn.